Good afternoon, everyone. Not morning this time. Good to see you. Apparently, I was making some people nervous because we started right at 1 o'clock. We did good, but at about 12:55, I'm getting texts as I'm driving up. People wondered, what was going on. Yeah, quite heavy traffic. There was a big pileup on 401, so that delayed me quite a bit, and it was pretty heavy on 403 too, I got to say. But hey, we got started on time, so I guess that's what matters to them. Meantime, my apologies to anyone's nerves who are frazzled by that experience. So as you heard, we are observing Gotan-e today. This is a Gotan-e service, as well as the regular Shotsuki for May, I guess it is. Boy, I can't even tell. That's the way it is these days. So Gotan-e for May of Shinran Jonin, as we heard. That and in where you from in Japan. Good. Okay. All right. Have people been there? Been to any of the historic sites associated with Shinran? Yes. Have you been to any? Raise your hand. Let me see. It's like you're in class. Remember, I'm a professor. So there we go. Waving in my peripheral vision. This is good. Okay. All right. So, been to some of the what? Where you been? Honganji? Yeah, good. Where else? Anywhere else? Have we been to any other historic Shinran associated sites? Not so much. Okay. We got one of it. What's that? Do you mean the Golden Pavilion Temple? That's Kinkakuji, right? That's a Zen temple. But that's a famous one in Kyoto. Absolutely. Very, very beautiful. Absolutely. Okay. All right. So, is it Kino doing? Not so much. Okay. All right. This is a temple that's built at the birth of Shiva. Okay, so it's like observing his. It's a temple that's built to observe his birthplace, his birthday, essentially, right? Sounds like nobody has been there. Yeah. This is actually a pretty recent temple. It was built in 1931. So Shinran's birthday temple actually is going to have its own 100th birthday coming up in 5 years, if I'm doing that right. I'm not in the math faculty. I'm in the arts faculty, but I think I got that right. Okay, so coming up on 100 years. So I go, 100 years. Okay, that's really pretty recent for a temple in Japan, right? By comparison, the first full temple opened in Japan in the year 596. So that's been 1,430 years, again, trying the math. Yep. So that's a little longer than 95 years in the case of, Tangerine, right? If we think about it, in East Asian culture, funerals and memorials, so recognizing the death date of a person, these have been much more important culturally than birthdays have been, right? I think that's for a few reasons. So remember them, reconnect with them. Meanwhile, the living, they're like right here, sometimes in our way. Like, we don't have to take a special effort to reconnect with them or to remember them or do special rituals to sort of rebind ourselves in this sort of way, right? Second, in ancient Japanese culture, as well as in China and other places, the deceased ancestors were believed to become powerful spirits. So those spirits needed or wanted prayers from the living in order to sort of improve the quality of their afterlives. So, and by praying to them, because they were powerful, then you could receive good fortune back from them. There was a reciprocal relationship. On the other hand, if you ignored them, then you risk the possibility that they might curse you, get angry, curse you. Tatari is the Japanese term for this, right? So meanwhile, the living, they can't use supernatural powers to influence your fate. So more influence on the dead than on the living, such as at your birthday or something like this. And third, I think we're all aware that East Asian culture venerated elders. And funerals were a way of recognizing their sort of lifelong achievements. Meanwhile, babies, right? They're cute, but they're mostly useless. Their resumes are like really underwhelming when you compare it to like an older person. So celebrating someone who's achieved a lot, through their memorials and such, just culturally made a lot more sense than some baby, like, yeah, nice baby. What have you done for me lately? Like you're going to celebrate them later in their life when they've really made a life for themselves. In comparison, though, Western culture has in recent centuries really elevated the role of birthdays, right? And I think this seems related to notions of the inherent value of the individual, which was a strong sort of value that came out of the Western Enlightenment sort of cultural transition and so on, right? So we could say that like, oh, this is great. Birthdays celebrate, the value of every person. On the other hand, we could also read this as like the triumph of self-centeredness. I don't know, make your choice about what you think is going on there culturally with birthday culture. In Japanese history, though, birthdays were basically, they were never celebrated. This just was not a thing until very, very recent. Or we could say, maybe it's not that they were never celebrated, but they were not individually celebrated. They were communally celebrated. What I mean by this is that back in the day, for the whole sweep of Japanese history, you got another year older on New Year's Day. Everybody. So New Year's Day was everybody's birthday. Everybody, 1 year on New Year's Day. That was just culturally how it was always counted this way. So that was the tradition since up until the post-World War II period. The American occupation, then that was the first time individual birthdays on the actual board began to be celebrated in this way. So, Sean's birthplace of Hino Tanjiro, this is something pretty new. A celebration of birthdays and birth sites and so on, valuing these things in that way. It's a modern development. Memorial sites or memorial sort of observances were more important, historically speaking, than what Shinran's memorial site, right? Anyone know about places in Japan, in Kyoto even, that are connected to Shinran in a memorial fashion, or things connected to his death site, or anything like that? Do we have any knowledge about any of these? Well, there's actually 3 different ones. And in fact, actually, that's just in the Nishi tradition. There's even more if we have the Higashi tradition, but there's 3. Okay. Actually, we already named one of them, Nishi Honganji, the mother temple, the head temple of this tradition. That was founded as his memorial chapel. That's how Nishi Honganji, the original Honganji, was created. It was Shinran's memorial chapel. This was founded by his daughter Kushini, who in later years of his life was there when he passed away, created a memorial chapel to him, which grew over time to become Nishi Honganji, the single most important temple in Japan. So if you've been to Nishi Honganji, several of us have, I learned from the pop quiz at the beginning, you'll remember it has 2 halls there. Well, you may Edo, the Goedo. This one enshrines a statue of Shinran Shonin in it. So on the Naijin there, instead of Amida, you've got Shinran, a statue there in the Goedo, right? And said that the statue actually, the lacquer that they decorated the statue, some Shinran's lacquer. So he's really physically embodied in some fashion in that statue. It was carved from life before he passed away. So this sacred statue, actually, in the history of the tradition, that's in the Goedo. Go means honored, same as like in Gotan-e. It's the same particle as o. We're used to saying oh such and such all the time, right? Butsudan or o Butsudan, all this sort of stuff, right? O and go are literally the same kanji, just go is the even more formal way of pronouncing it in more of a Chinese fashion rather than a colloquial Japanese fashion. That's go. So go. Go-e do. That A means shadow, if you look at the kanji. And do is just a word for hall, just generically in Japanese. So this is the honored shadow hall enshrining Shinran. So in some way like that statue there is felt to be like a shadow or still a trace of Shinran still casting into our world there that we can interact with. The other main hall is the Amida-do, Hall of Amida. That's pretty obvious there. So that's one of them, Nishi Honganji. Got second one, Otani Honbyo. This is a mausoleum, Eastern Kyoto, where the ashes of Shinran and his family are kept. And many other people are also buried there as well. And the Canadian Kyodan, the Canadian Joshinshu temples, maintain a Butsudan there at that mausoleum. And it's possible, I believe, for people's ashes to actually go and be stored there, if you wish. There's a procedure, as I understand it. And where they are, you've got this big temple, Otani Honbyo, with grounds and everything. And then to visit the local Butsudans, essentially, if we want to talk about it that way, you have to go inside and get in an elevator. You go down into the earth underneath this temple. And the doors open up, and you're long, big, like a all sort of a room, and there's Butsudan just lining on either side, right next to it, like as far as you can see into the distance. And there's several floors to this great big hall there. So you're in a room with more Butsudan than you've ever seen in your life. They go on like this. And when you go there, it's like going to a library, because you have to know the number of the Butsudan that you're looking for. You can look it up in basically like a card catalog sort of thing. And then you follow along until you get to the one. And then when you get along the road to the one you're seeking, so say you're going to visit the Canadian one, you look it up and you go on, you find it, and you go in there and you can open it up. And it's a typical Butsudan setup there, but it has some things that indicate this for the Canadian people who have passed away, Canadian members of the past. And you can do a little service there if you want it and honor them in that way. And even if you don't go and visit, sounds like most people haven't. I have. This is my job, go around and bother all the Buddhists in Japan everywhere, see what's going on with them. So when I went there, I noticed that they have ministers on staff, and they go down in the elevator, and every day they go along, and they go and open up the first Butsudan and do a little service for the people there from that region. They close up, they go to the next one along the line, open up, do a service for the people from that region, everything. All these, probably takes a long time, right? Yeah. So what that means is that in Japan today, it happens every day. Maybe happened yesterday because they're kind of ahead of us in time. It's already after 1, right? But on this day and every day, there are ministers there performing services on behalf of the Canadian Buddhists who passed away in previous years and in previous generations. So while we're going about our lives, third, I'll mention this one quickly. The Shinran funeral pyre, where he was cremated. Most were in at the time. Eastern Kyoto, you may be aware, covered with there's probably the most gigantic in the world. And if you go there and you know where to go, then you find your way, go down some steps and get to the place where he was cremated. It's not a temple there; it's already in a gigantic graveyard. Anyway, so that's the death stuff, which has culturally been very important. But it is Gotan-e, so let's talk about Hino Tanjoin, which is the temple that memorializes his birth site. Name comes from Hino. Hino is the sort of village neighborhood within Greater Kyoto where Shinran was born. And we've got Hino Tanjoin. So this is what means birthday, just like the tan and Gotan-e, right? Or people may say Tanjobi o medetou, happy birthday, celebrate your birthday, that sort of thing, right? Um, and then you've got Tanjo-in. In just means like a chapel. This is a common designation for like a smaller sized temple. I went to Hino Tanjo-in because, like I said, I go everywhere in Japan where they're Buddhists that I could potentially bother. So I went there and checked it out. And it was interesting to me because it has some unusual architectural features. It's built more in like the style of like an old lord's manor from back in the day than looking like a traditional temple in some ways. So, and when you go inside, um, uh, usually you have Amida Buddha on the Naijin, right? And there's two alcoves, and we have usually figures on each one. Usually we have over here. Can we guess who's usually on the side? Shinran? Yeah, good guess. You're right. Okay. Who's usually on the other side then? Guessing. This is true like in the Toronto temple. Can't see our Butsudan right here, but Honin, yeah. Okay. No. Yes. Often Honin or often Renyo. It can be either, right? But it's neither a Hino Tanjoi. It's Hino Akinori, Shinran's dad, gets to be on the altar there because this was his house back in the day. So he's up there hanging out. Yeah. So that was kind of interesting because that's a little different. But then what was interesting to me from like a Dharma standpoint when I'm thinking about Shinran is that, so this is where he grew up, and right across the street from there's a historic temple. Remember, this temple is new. It used to be Shinran's house back in the day, a long time ago. So they just built a temple there in the last 100 years to honor Shinran. But right across the street, there's an ancient temple. And that is a temple of the Tendai sect of Buddhism. And inside has an image of Yakushi Nyorai. Yakushi is the medicine Buddha. This is an ancient temple. It goes back from before Shinran's time. And people would go and they would pray to this Yakushi, right? And then nations to this medicine Buddha, hope that they would receive healing from illness or from injury or symptoms of old age, this sort of thing. That's why I go visit that because they thought that Buddha would take care of you if you had illness or something like this back in the day. And when I was there and I was looking across, I realized this must have been the very first machine ever, even like as a small boy, because it's right there, right near where he was. So as a boy, he probably ran across that road many times and crept into the dark interior of the Yakushi Hall many times, I'm sure. his concern. As the medicine only helped people who were sick. Use an example. There's various types of this in the Tendai tradition, but they utilize the medicine book to help sick people. That's a wonderful thing to help sick people. But it means you just got one focus as a Buddha, right? Shinran, as a Buddhist, he preferred a larger type of compassion, embraced everyone in every situation. So in the end, he turned towards Amida Buddha as the true and real manifestation of limitless compassion. Amida Buddha does embrace the sick, the injured, the infirm, and everyone else in all possible categories. All are embraced and all are affirmed by the limitless compassion of Amida Buddha, rather than the sort of targeted compassion of various other Buddhas. So in his understanding, it wasn't necessary to pray to Amida Buddha the way people did to a Gyakushin Nyorai, or to make donations in the same way that they did because they were hoping to get something. Amida Buddha would extend compassion to every living being. So instead of us giving things to the Buddhas or the kami or whatever that we have given this way, and favor, that is the regular relationship within Tendai Buddhism, within Japanese Buddhism generally, such as at that temple right across the street from where he grew up. People would go there and give things to the temple, to the Buddha, and then hope the Buddha would take compassion and heal the illness, this sort of thing. This wasn't necessary for Amida Buddha. Shinran's focused on how the equation is flipped in the case of Amida Buddha. Amida Buddha gives something to us, gives us awakening to our true nature through Shinran's liberation from suffering through the Pure Land. And then, if we feel moved to gratefulness because we've received that gift, then we return that by saying Namo Amida Butsu, to express our thankfulness, not to try to get saved or get awakened or anything like that. Because the Buddha always embraces us first, before we even set out to try to get something. We realize we already received, and so we say Namo Amida Butsu to be thankful. It's important for us to note that in turning to Amida Buddha, Shinran was not rejecting other Buddhas. Shinran stressed that, as the sutras, all the Buddhas themselves venerate Amida Buddha, and they all say Namo Amida Butsu themselves. So when we say the Nembutsu, we are still honoring the Buddhas throughout the universe. They're included within that Namo Amida Butsu. It isn't that other Buddhas bad or other types of Buddhism are wrong. Not at all the point. The point of Shinran's teaching is that Amida Buddha is the most universal. And therefore, all of us can take refuge in that great compassion which embraces everyone just as they are, never abandons anyone. Thus, while other Buddhists, they can help some people, and other forms of Buddhism can be very helpful to some people, Amida Buddha helps everyone. And Shoshin is designed to try to bring about universal liberation for everyone, just as they are. So this was Shinran's message, something that he learned, something that he discovered over the years growing up, from his early years in Hino, middle years in Ryakuji, and then afterwards when he encountered Honen and began to teach the Dharma throughout Japan. So on this observance of Shinran Shonin's birthday, I'm very grateful to him for developing such an inclusive approach to the Dharma and for enduring intense persecution in order to defend and transmit this awesome. So, in gratitude for hard work, the good work that Shinran did, I'm going to close my Dharma talk by putting my hands here and saying the Nembutsu. Won't you join me? Namo Amida Butsu. Namo Amida Butsu. Namanda, Namanda, Namanda. Thank you, everyone, for your take with my Dharma talk. Maybe more of a a lecture about it's almost like, you know, what I did on my summer vacation. Here's the place I visited, Japan. That's what I got to think of when I got to think about it. I remembered all the places, the meaning that all these different things have. And I thought it might be good to share a little of that and remember the essential message of the Dharma that Shinran transmitted. So thank you. Okay. Oh, thank you very much. Actually, I'll pause for a moment. Do you have any questions or comments other than praise? Thank you very much. That I might have confused anyone, or does anyone have any follow-ups that they'd like to offer? Yeah, please. Mm-hmm.
I don't know how long I'm with you. I do not know of anything other than my mother telling me that they will have a perpetual service for father and mother.
Mm-hmm.
If they're you know,
Do you mean like task? Like in EHI? Yeah. One word for that is an EHI. Yeah, it's a memorial tablet. Yeah.
So the memorial tablet, Hashimoto says it's a full because I couldn't give it to him.
Mm-hmm. Right.
So the pictures of it to take. So I'm hoping that all the times that it's the day that they're back, that they have the those purpose for it.
Yes.
So do they do that?
Yes. So it depends on exactly the exact tradition at any given temple, right? There's so many temples throughout Japan, and they'll each have their modifications. But yeah, but brought Kyoto, they take it to Shonganji, probably. Yeah, exactly. Yep. So therefore, either at Honganji or at a Tanihonbyo, which is a Nishi temple that's very closely connected. It's just over in the eastern part of the city instead of the central part where Honganji is, right? So what they will probably do, I don't know the exact procedure right now in 2026. It's been a little while since I was in Japan, but generally speaking, they'll do they will do a individualized service as necessary, and then over the years they'll start to do them less frequently, but not stopping. This is part of the Japanese tradition: is many at first, and then spacing it out. And if you're like, as the ancestors become sort of further removed, and then eventually, they often become sort of join with all the generations who've gone before, and now you're including them within a sort of a larger sort of body of people that are still being recognized in perpetuity. This is called Eitaikyo, the perpetual memorial service.
And on a yearly basis, if I send them donations, do they still do the service?
Yes, if you're sending specific donations, they will probably do a specific service as long as you can do that, because they're very respectful of that sort of thing.
They don't like the American dollar.
Yeah, they probably don't know what to do with that. So yes, that's true. Yeah, and then if they eventually maybe long after us, if they get moved to the common or communal ancestors site, they may, for example, go to a Tanihonbyo, be entered in with the Canadians, and then they're going to get it every day. Yeah. So even if at some point after you're no longer sending money, of course, eventually all of us sort of disperse in a common category. That's so because it's happening every day. The Shotsuki day is a day, right? So every day will be received.
Yeah, I just wanted to see what was done.
Yeah. Yeah, they're very responsible. That's people's. That's their ones. They're great to do that. Yeah. Thank you. I'm glad we could address that. Do we have any other questions? We don't get together once a month, so no time to clear up any questions people might have about Buddhism or Buddhist practices.
The comment have been to the common council
Okay.
So we went over as, there was a delegation that met with him on too.
Uh-huh.
And they had dinner with him just a few months away.
Oh, that's wonderful. Uh-huh.
But it's quite a few years ago now. So
Okay. What is it? I mean, that's almost as long as the last time I was there. So yeah, very good. Okay. All right. So you get 2 checks on your bingo card. Okay. Got that one too. Oh, all right. Thank you. Well, thank you for your questions for my question time as well. Why don't we go ahead and finish the schedule? Thank you so much.